Welcome to Tuesday Talks. Are you tired of all the BS and fluff in self-help and personal development? We're here to deliver evidence-based growth. So buckle up. We're going to give you the actionable, evidence-based answers you need, all in under 10 minutes, here on Tuesday Talks.
Welcome to Tuesday Talks. I'm your host, Matt Bodner.
I'm the producer, Austin Fable.
Boom. Today we're going to be talking about the 80-20 principle. This is something we recently did an interview with Perry Marshall, where we went super deep on this concept, but it's something that I think is super, super important. In fact, if you could see, we have the letters 80-20 printed in giant letters over on the wall over there, but the 80-20 principle governs a tremendous amount of our lives. You know, it's a mathematical phenomenon that explains everything from the distribution of craters on the moon to rabbit populations to the size of files on your hard drive, all the way to the distribution of wealth of individuals and countries. And so it's something that's really, really powerful. And it's something that you can leverage in your own life to transform the results that you're getting.
So one of the common uses that a lot of people understand and know is, that 20% of your sales come from 80% of your customers, 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers, and then vice versa with your problems as well. Like usually you have a large set of customers that cause most of your problems and a small set that are worth more that kind of get you pushed through. But what are some of the more intricate uses for the 80-20 principle?
Well, I think what you said is worth expounding upon, which is that there's both a positive and a negative application of the 80-20 principle.
Absolutely.
Right. And so the 80-20 principle in its simplest form states that 80% of your outputs are created by 20% of your inputs. And what that means is that a few small, high leverage things create the vast majority of the results that you want. And this can, or that you don't want, create the vast majority of the results, right? And so the positive application of that is looking at things that you want to happen. Do you want to grow your sales, the outputs that you want to create in the world, and figuring out, journaling, digging down to the numbers, understanding what are the inputs that actually created those outputs, right? Whether it's your time spent, whether it's people hired, whether it's money invested, etc. What are the actual things, the very specific things that created those positive outputs? The flip side of that is looking at negative things, looking at the things you don't like, the outcomes you don't want to happen, the things that cause you stress and unhappiness in your life and in your business, and figuring out, are there a small few number of sources that are causing the vast majority of my headaches? And the idea of the 80-20 principle is that typically, yes, the distribution of outcomes is not necessarily equal to what the inputs are. And so very small inputs can have huge outputs. And that's fundamentally the concept of leverage. And the 80-20 principle is all about the application of leverage.
Absolutely. I think, I can think of even in my personal life and in my career as well, 20% of the things I do really give me kind of 80% of the results. It's those like really high value activities that you put time into that you really get the most from. But then again, 80% of that work might not be unimportant, but a lot of other things are really not going to move the needle forward and give me a lot of input.
And one of the things you can do is in order to conduct, if you want to apply the 80-20 principle to your life so that you can achieve more results by doing fewer things, or you can cut off a few things that are causing most of your problems, you can actually conduct an 80-20 analysis of your own life. And we're going to have we're going to have a guide below this video. And if you're listening on the audio, this will be in the show notes for this particular Tuesday talk. But we actually put together a resource that shows you and walks you through all the steps necessary to conduct an 80-20 analysis. But once you've done that and you've looked at what are the 20% of the inputs that are creating 80% of what I want in my life, what are the 20% of inputs that are creating 80% of what I don't want, you can create a really simple, both a to-do list of how do I do more of these really high leverage things and fewer of the things that don't really matter at all. In many cases, you can just ignore, delegate, or forget about those things. And then how do I create a not to-do list of the 20% of things that are creating 80% or more of my headaches? All right, so that's the 80-20 principle in a nutshell. Simple, sweet, beautiful. It's an incredibly powerful phenomenon and something that I personally spend a lot of time thinking about in my life. I spent about 4 or 5 hours the other day doing a huge deep dive 80-20 analysis of my life, how I spend my time, how my income is generated, what's creating happiness, what's creating stress and unhappiness across everything in my life, and created a huge action item list that I'm going to continue to implement. The beautiful thing also about the 80-20 principle is that it's recursive. So what I mean by that is you can conduct an 80-20 analysis and start whittling away all those things. And then after you've done that, you can come back, let's say 5-6 months later, and then conduct another 80-20 analysis and continue to extract the most high leverage activities from whatever you're doing, and only focus on executing and doing those things that can create the absolute biggest impact in your life. Thanks for listening to Tuesday Talks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Tuesday Talks. For more great content like this and things focused on evidence-based growth, be sure to sign up for our email list. You can sign up right here or by going to successpodcast.com.